Very late in the morning, Junwoo wakes up and finds a note from his family explaining they had to leave in a hurry, but they left him money for groceries. Instead of going to the store, Junwoo decides to play video games online with his friends for his stream, but their fun is interrupted when a player urges him to check the news because something big is happening. As soon as Junwoo turns on television, the usual show is interrupted by the emergency signal, which then cuts to a reporter announcing the apocalypse. An emergency text arrives on Junwoo's phone before he looks out the window, and the sight that greets him is horrifying. Zombies have taken over the city and are going after humans, who are panicking and running all over the place. The streets are in utter chaos and vehicles keep crashing against each other, causing small explosions. There's a girl calling out for her mom, and when the mother finds her, the girl starts eating her. Junwoo can hear noises coming from the corridor that confirm there's chaos and violence inside his building too. When he opens the door to the hallway, his neighbor Sung-chul bursts in, begging for permission to stay because his zombified brother has taken over his apartment. Junwoo tries to kick him out. However, Sung-chul keeps fighting back and blocking the door. In the end, Junwoo allows him to use the bathroom as long as he promises to leave when he's done. Then Junwoo hears on television that people are transforming because of an infection that is quickly spreading through the country. Symptoms include aggressive behavior and eye bleeding, which end in cannibalistic tendencies. Junwoo rushes to grab a knife and points it at Sung-chul when he comes out, noticing the scar on his hand. Sung-chul swears he's fine, but at that moment his eyes turn red and he starts convulsing as his veins darken. Suddenly he snarls and tackles Junwoo, who manages to push back and kick him out of the apartment. After some struggle with an arm, Junwoo gets to lock the door. Through the peephole, he watches a big zombie attack Sang-chul and drag him away. Now there's blood seeping under the door into the apartment. Afterward, Junwoo blocks the front door by pushing his refrigerator in front of it. He keeps trying to call his family, but the operator informs him he can't connect him now. Thankfully, he receives a text from his mother assuring him they're fine, although they can't come home. She asks him to stay inside and to survive. On television, the reporter says people should have enough food and water for 60 days, making Junwoo regret not going to the grocery store. He rations his food and writes, "You must survive" on a post, that he hangs on a family picture. The next morning, a professor appears on television explaining that the zombies are created by a mutated viral infection that affects the right side of the brain. Junwoo still can't make calls, but he sees lots of people on social media asking about their loved ones and posting their addresses under the hashtag #alive. Hoping to get help, Junwoo takes a picture of himself holding a sign with his address and posts it with the hashtag "I must survive." He also watches a video of a guy hanging outside the window of a very tall building with his phone on a selfie stick, streaming as he tries to get better signal. The video ends when he suddenly falls. The report on television announces that people who get infected are asymptomatic for a few minutes before the transformation. Junwoo sends out his drone to look at the other apartments in his building and discovers there are zombies in almost all of them. He accidentally makes the phone call his father, and this kills the battery, so the drone has to come back. Then he tries to keep himself distracted by playing an online game, but the internet goes down as well. In the evening, Junwoo is woken up by a car alarm going off outside the building. He looks out the window and discovers a cop shooting at her fellow officers, who have all become zombies. Unfortunately, she runs out of bullets, and while she's in the middle of reloading, the zombies manage to jump on her, biting her a few times before dragging her to another street where more zombies are waiting. Junwoo tries yelling at the zombies to distract them, but they only pause for a second before they go back to devouring the cop. Suddenly, the big zombie from yesterday starts pounding on the door until he manages to push the refrigerator and open the door. Junwoo rushes to start pushing back, but he isn't strong enough, so he runs to the balcony and jumps over it. When the zombie comes after him, it falls over the railing and crashes to the ground while Junwoo is safely holding on. He can see the horde of zombies from earlier and notices that the cop has transformed as well. Afterward, he takes extra measures to lock the door and is sad to notice that when the zombie came in, he destroyed most of his food supplies. That night, he records a video for his followers, explaining how terrified he feels about the situation. On day 7, Junwoo begins drinking his father's liquor and covers the windows with color paper so he won't be seen from the outside. Television news explains that the infection is only spread by getting in contact with the blood, so a person can be safe as long as they avoid bites and stab wounds. The zombies get a superior sense of strength and sensory capabilities. Many of them even possess the ability to perform normal human behaviors like opening doors and performing their old jobs. After seeing a tempting commercial, Junwoo eats a bowl of ramen and notices too late the post-it note saying this was his last meal. In his frustration, he knocks over his water bottle, so he goes to get more from the tap only to discover there's no running water in the entire apartment. He ends up sucking the few drops from the table. On day 10, Junwoo records another video saying how frustrated he is with the messages on television that say they only have to wait at home. He's desperate to leave, but there still are zombies outside. He remembers there's an emergency app with a radio show that can be used with an audio jack as an antenna, but Junwoo only has wireless earphones. On day 15, Junwoo dances around the apartment to try to cope. At that moment, he hears a noise and is shocked to find his family coming back. This moment of happiness only lasts a minute before he realizes he's hallucinating, causing him to have a breakdown. He collapses on the ground as he loses all hope until he's startled by a voice message. Junwoo can hear his mother telling him to stay home, but there's lots of static and he can't understand the rest. Copying the guy from the video, he stands on the balcony with a selfie stick, listening to the message while the zombies wait for him to fall. Unfortunately, the message ends when a zombie attacks his family, which may mean they're dead. This causes Junwoo to finally snap, and he starts destroying all the objects in the living room, but it isn't enough to cope with his frustration. He steps outside and starts hitting a zombie with a golf club until it's dead. As he yells for more, he looks around the corner and finds a zombified Sungchul. Junwoo isn't scared of just one zombie, but his yelling has gotten the attention of a whole horde. He runs to the elevator and opens the door, only for more zombies to come out. A terrified Junwoo immediately runs away and manages to hide just in time. After the horde is gone, Junwoo starts making his way back to his place. A new zombie appears nearby, but he's blind, so Junwoo waits until he walks away and rushes to get inside his apartment. As soon as he locks the door, the zombies hear the noise and gather outside. On day 20, Junwoo rushes to the window when he hears some explosions and learns that the city is getting bombed. Thinking it's over, he makes a video only saying hello and goodbye before getting on a stool to self-delete. While he waits for the end, a laser beam suddenly comes into the apartment through the window and points at the word no on a sign. Junwoo struggles with the rope until he frees himself and reads the words the laser is pointing at, which form the sentence, "Don't be a moron." When he looks out the window, he discovers that Yubin has been watching him from her apartment using binoculars. Using hand gestures, they agree to meet again at 7. A look into Bin's place reveals she's very organized and has plenty of survival tools. She's even installed a booby trap by the door and shares her water with her plant. The next morning, Junwoo oversleeps and peeks out the window at 11. Bin takes pity on him and comes out to greet him anyway. Using gestures and their phones, they exchange their names and a few words. At that moment, Bin hears a noise, so she tells him they can meet at 7 again. Then she grabs her axe and turns around to find a zombie caught in her trap. After a short moment to gather her bravery, she kills it. That night it starts raining, so both Junwoo and Bin take their pots out to gather water, and Bin puts her plant outside as well. When she looks at Junwoo's building, she notices the 8th floor is empty. The next morning, Junwoo wakes up early, but he isn't feeling well because of his hunger. Bin notices this and tries to throw some rope toward his balcony using a ball, but it falls on the ground. Junwoo sends out his drone with some rope, and once it's been firmly tied on both sides, Bin sends a bag with food and a note that says, "Eat slowly." At that moment, Junwoo notices that the ball has been grabbed by a zombie firefighter who pulls at the rope. The table on the other end is dragged through the apartment and hits Bin, knocking her out. Now that the table is stuck against the railing, the fireman starts climbing the rope. Junwoo throws empty bottles to stop him, but none of them hit. Then Junwoo sends out the drone, flying it near the fireman to try to make him fall. It even manages to scratch his cheek. The zombie keeps swatting at the drone, so Junwoo has to carefully dodge every movement. When zombies start pounding on his door, he gets distracted and the drone falls, but he regains control just in time. Unfortunately, the fireman manages to grab the drone and destroy it, but before he can keep climbing, Yubin wakes up and cuts off his hand, making him fall. While Yubin looks at her bruises in the mirror, Junwoo flashes a message on his phone saying, "Stay strong." Sometime later, Junwoo notices that the food supplies are getting low again and reminds himself he must survive for his family. After covering his feet and his head, he leaves the apartment in the middle of the night. There are many bodies in the corridors, including Sang-chul, so Junwoo takes his keys while moving quietly because there's a zombie nearby. Then he enters Sang-chul's apartment and takes food from the fridge, some headphones, a jacket, and walkie-talkies. Then he notices something on the bed and moves the covers to find a dead woman. At that moment, he's attacked by Sang-chul's zombified brother, who tackles him to the ground. Junwoo manages to use the dead woman as a shield, which allows him to roll away and start running. The zombie tries chasing after him. However, Junwoo throws a metal bar at him to slow him down and locks the door on his way out so he can return to his place safely. After having a snack, Junwoo cuts the headphone wires to use the jack as an antenna, but sadly the radio app isn't working. Then he sends the bag back to Yubin with a walkie-talkie and some of the neighbors' food. They chat for a while to show support for each other, and it's revealed that Yubin considered self-deleting too. During lunch, they prepare noodles at the same time to pretend they're eating in each other's company. Then they spend the whole afternoon talking, and Yubin confesses she's afraid of heights because she fell while climbing as a kid. At that moment, they hear a noise and think it's raining, but when they look outside, they discover every zombie in the area running at the same time. Since they're storming through their respective buildings, the survivors try to stay quiet on the ground. However, Yubin accidentally knocks over a shelf, and the noise attracts the zombies' attention. A terrified Yubin thinks it's over, but Junwoo remembers all the units are connected and calls Yubin's neighbor. The ringing phone makes the zombies move away from her door. Since staying on their respective floors is getting too dangerous, Yubin tells Junwoo about the empty apartment on the 8th floor, and they agree to meet there. Junwoo wants to make a plan. However, Yubin uses the table and some rope to jump through the window and land safely on the ground. The zombies immediately go after her, and she shows impressive skills as she either runs fast enough to dodge them or fights them with her axe. She even uses car doors to attack them. When she's about to reach the other building, she accidentally finds and grabs the cop's gun. A zombie jumps on her, but before it can bite her, Junwoo hits it with his golf club. Now the duo can fight together, and they keep on killing zombies as they make their way to the building, trying to use the abandoned cars as cover. When they finally go inside, they close the door behind them and rush to get into the elevator right before the zombies break the glass. Soon they make it to floor 8 and start looking for an unlocked apartment. Suddenly, they hear a noise and discover there are zombies in these corridors too. Yubin runs to find an open door while Junwoo blocks the corridor with some objects to buy time. At that moment, a door opens and a masked man comes out. After pushing Yubin into his apartment, the man throws a gas explosive at the zombies so Junwoo can run and enter the apartment as well. After the man locks the door, Yubin admits she's wary since this place was supposed to be empty. However, the man is nice and even shares his food and water with them. He also drops big news. Since he's on such a high floor, he catches the radio signal sometimes, and he's learned that there's a rescue team coming soon. Yubin and Junwoo are overjoyed, but suddenly Junwoo passes out because the man put a sedative in the water. Since Yubin only took a sip, she's just dizzy. The man still manages to tie her hands and drag her into another room, where he locks her up with his zombified wife. The blood on the walls implies she's already eaten her own baby. Pulling a rope from outside, the man releases his wife while explaining he just wants to feed her so she can survive like him. At that moment, Junwoo wakes up and points the gun at the man, asking him to reconsider. However, the man refuses to talk and drops the rope, so Junwoo runs to catch it. While the man looks for a knife, Yubin continues to struggle against the zombie, who pulls with enough strength to make Junwoo lose the rope. He immediately rushes to the door but can't open the lock, and the man pushes him away. Yubin puts a baby's blanket against the wife's face, and the men worry when they suddenly hear no more noises. The man finally opens the door, and Yubin pushes his wife on top of him, causing them to fall. The zombie then bites her husband, who hugs her and says, "I love you." Before he can transform, Yubin shoots them both to death. The shots get the attention of the zombie horde on the street, who immediately starts rushing into the building. Yubin gives Junwoo the weapon and asks him to end things, but at first he refuses. She changes his mind when she says they should die as humans instead of becoming zombie food. A crying Junwoo gets ready to shoot, but at that moment, they hear a noise. It turns out the rescue helicopters are finally coming. Determined to survive, the duo throws another gas explosive into the corridor and pushes a few zombies out of the way to make it to the stairs. Unfortunately, a large zombie group quickly comes after them and grabs Yubin. She defends herself with her axe, and Junwoo grabs a bicycle to block the way, allowing her to crawl out of the pile. Junwoo convinces her to go to the roof while he buys time. Yubin quickly makes her way up, but she can't see the helicopters anymore. After lots of pushing, Junwoo manages to push the zombies a few steps down and runs upstairs, blocking the roof door with some ladders. When he realizes the choppers aren't around, he starts yelling, "We're still alive!" as they both cry. Suddenly, the zombie horde bursts through the door and Junwoo opens fire but only kills a couple of creatures before running out of bullets. Thankfully, a helicopter finally shows up, and the soldiers have enough weapons to keep the zombies at bay while Junwoo and Yubin get in the chopper to finally escape. Once the helicopter leaves the city, Junwoo's phone gets signal again, and he receives messages from his family saying they're fine. Watching the city from afar, Junwoo remembers all the posts he saw on social media related to survivors waiting to be rescued and imagines his "I must survive" tag being changed to "alive."